preview episode. If you didn't listen to the Oklahoma State recap, you didn't listen to our interview with Jonathan Tavernari, go check them out. A ton of good stuff on there. But today, it's rivalry week. BYU, Utah at the Huntsman Center. BYU looking for revenge after last season in December when BYU lost at the last second, crawling back in that game. Chase, this game Saturday, we're going to talk about it on the show. I don't think we can emphasize the importance of this game.
It's huge. It's the biggest game of the season up to this point, obviously, for many reasons. Mostly, not just necessarily the record, mostly for the confidence, the mojo around this team, how they're going to feel heading into the rest of their conference games, playing your rival conference opponent in Utah, a team that, hasn't had a lot of success against BYU in the recent years. Of course, last year you're playing for that revenge for that team. So ton of implications, a ton of momentum to be grabbed by either team going forward in the rest of their season. So huge for both sides.
I'm so excited for this one because especially guys like Dallin and Richie last year who were pivotal players at the closing moments of those games, and Trevin Nell, they're not going to forget about last season. There's going to be a lot of animosity going into this game. It's a rivalry game, obviously. There's going to be a lot of blue in the stands like there was last year, probably the same amount. It's going to be Utah's biggest crowd of the season by 10 times whatever they usually get. So going into this game, Utah takes care of TCU on the road, something BYU couldn't get done. BYU gets their confidence back up. Yeah, they take care of Oklahoma State, obviously, as we know, at home this week. Who are you more confident-wise going into this game?
From a team perspective, I mean, you got to feel about Utah because of what they just did to TCU in Dallas. And we watched what BYU and how they fared against TCU in Dallas just last week. It's a pretty short time span, so it's pretty easy to sit there and compare between the two teams. But the thing about Utah is that's the only, kind of thing to hang your hat on at this point in the season. They have zero other impressive wins. They have zero other reason to believe in them. But look, they made changes to their lineup, and they figured some things out, obviously, last night down against TCU. They looked pretty good, Karter.
They didn't look bad. I watched the game late last night after getting home from the Jazz game, and I watched the replay going through it, and they looked pretty good. And we'll start getting into this game right now, and the keys to this game and everything is BYU's got to keep the Madsen brothers off the three-point line. That is the number one thing in this game. If they can limit the amount of threes Utah makes, you can't overhelp in this game, Chase. You can't leave open shooters. Utah wants to shoot. BYU has shown they are susceptible to people lighting it up from beyond the arc on them. The Madsen brothers cannot get hot in this game, Chase.
Absolutely not. And this is the kind of game where you expect a crazy performance, especially from those two who one of them is like a lifelong Utah guy. The other one has been around but is reunited with his brother now, right, to play for the Utes. And it's a rivalry game. It's primetime Saturday night. It's a big one, and it's one of those games where you feel like, just someone has their night, and it's that moment. And BYU, look, let's be honest, they're susceptible to giving up big three-point performances. I mean, most teams who play BYU tend to have one of the best shooting nights of the season we've seen so far. And so BYU can't let that happen. Not only does Utah have those shooters out there, they're also super long, very tall, have the size and presence inside. So that combined with a good shooting night would pretty devastating for the Cougs.
Yeah, and on the opposite side, for BYU going into this game, the key here is very simple on how you beat Utah. It's penetrate, get to the basket, and that was the key. Get to the basket, penetrate. I saw that eyebrow raise. You got me for a second. But they got to get to the basket, man. They have to. That was a big thing in the Oklahoma State game. I don't think we emphasize enough where Oklahoma State, the talent wasn't quite there defensively and whatnot. BYU was kind of getting to their spots pretty easily in that game. I think BYU is going to have some of that same success against Utah. And if they can get guys like Dallin and Yegor to be aggressive and attack the paint like they were against Oklahoma State, that opens so many things up, especially for guys like Richie and Trevin Nell to take easy knockdown shots.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the biggest key to Oklahoma State. And the biggest key to pretty much every decent BYU win this year has been that formula that we've talked about. BYU has the opportunity here, and they will say this a lot, especially in the Big 12 conference, but they're more athletic than Utah and they're more physical than Utah. And so they are going to need to bring all that together Saturday night and it really expose that part of Utah's game. And that starts with what you're saying, getting to the basket, playing inside, then finding the shooters to make it happen. You have obviously Kaba coming back, transferring from Utah just this past off season. Look to him to have like a big kind of comeback. Hey, I'm better now. I don't think has any animosity, but he's returning back to that place where he played. And then of course Foose, who's played Utah now. Like, I mean, this is his fourth time playing the Utes.
Yeah, probably
fourth or fifth. So he's done it before. He's been there before, and he obviously plays physical down low offensively and is able to get to his space and his shot. So it's a rare occasion BYU gets to say that they're more athletic than a Big 12 opponent, but in this case they are, and in this case they have the opportunity to make that presence known in this game. In fact, I think they have to.
They have to, absolutely. And you mentioned Kaba Keita. I think he's going to have a key role in this game where the lob threat is going to be there in this spot. And I think the pick and roll with Yegor and Kaba is going to be lethal in this game. And that's going to be a big key is, can Yegor get the ball to Kaba on these easy alley-oops? Because, like you mentioned, BYU is athletically, they are more athletic than this Utah team. They are more physically imposing than this Utah team, which is pretty rare to say that in this Big 12 conference. And another thing about this, talking about predicting this game, how much people say this all the time in rivalry games, this throw stats out the window. It doesn't matter. Anything can happen. How much stock do you put into that?
It's a lame answer, but like I kind of do, kind of don't. I think this is the big emotional game for a lot of reasons, right? You have players coming back. You have the animosity from last year. You just have the fact that BYU and Utah hate each other. A lot of history there. So there's going to be a lot of emotion in the building. It'll be busy. I don't know if we can predict a sellout, but it'll be the biggest crowd they've seen all season. That's for dang sure there in the Huntsman Center. And BYU is going to play in a true hostile environment, which from what we've seen, Karter, it just doesn't bode well for the Cougars. They have not been able to figure it out when it's at these away games, especially with a decent crowd. So there's going to be a lot of mental toughness in this game. Can you overcome the emotions, the hype, all the rivalry talk? And in that case, yeah, you need to throw stats out the window because it kind of comes down to who wants it more, who's more mentally focused, who's more ready to go in there and get a win. So who that is, I guess we'll see. I'm worried about BYU. Can I say that, Karter?
You can say that. I was going to say, looking at the sellout thing, I'm on their ticket website right now. There's a decent amount of seats left. It'll be a sell. I think it'll be a sellout by tip-off, though.
It'll be full. If it's not 100% capacity, it'll be 95 plus for sure.
Yeah, especially. I mean, the lower bowl seats are basically all filled. It's just the upper bowl at this point. But yeah, so you're worried. You're nervous about the Cougs in this spot.
I'm nervous. Look, we've seen for all season they haven't been able to figure it out mentally on the road. They've come out flat and they just lack energy and poise. And Utah, they've a bit of momentum, and I think they feel like they feel pretty good in their building, and they feel like, hey, we did this last year to a BYU team who was red hot, undefeated coming in. I think we can do this again. That being said, BYU is more talented than Utah. Can I say that? Utah's not good. They are not a tournament team by any means. BYU still has a chance to be one. So the question is, can BYU just show that poise and come in with that mental toughness to get it done? But I'm worried because we haven't seen it. Was Oklahoma State the moment? Was that little second half run where we saw them get amped up and we saw some emotion on the court? Was that the turning point? Are they having a focused practice? Are they ready to get going? Maybe, but from right now, there's just no proof in the pudding for me to say this is what's going to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few things I want to unpack there. First off, BYU on the road, we haven't seen it and whatnot, but they get that win against Oklahoma State. We talked about confidence booster constantly and everything. Was Oklahoma State the start to the championship DVD? the turning point in the season, players only meeting, and everything's all good now. They all rallied back together.
It'd be a heck of a DVD, man. I would
It'd
love
be one funny DVD. That was a joke for any Utah fans listening. I promise. The other thing is, Utah has the same amount of impressive wins as BYU. Obviously Utah
has worse losses.
So the losses are worse, yes, because they were blowouts, but it's pretty even when you dive into the numbers.
It's true. This is a quad 1 game for BYU.
This is a quad 1 game for BYU. Utah 0-5 quad 1, 1-1 quad 2. BYU 0-3 quad 1, 1-2 quad 2. So
the resumes are similar. The resumes
are similar, but when you actually watch the basketball games, Utah's been getting absolutely the doors blown off of them by every team that's somewhat decent outside of TCU recently, which that was a big win for Utah. And it's a big win for BYU. BYU should be rooting on Utah, which is a weird thing to say in college basketball, but that win solidifies this. As before it was going to be a shaky quad 1, quad 2 game. This is a quad 1 game for BYU, and we've harped on this so many times over the last 2 weeks, Chase. This is the moment for BYU season. Oklahoma State, great, whatever. It was a quad 3 win at home against the worst team in the conference. You should win those games. Not too many pats on the back for that one. This is the game. This is a struggling Utah team this year. They're kind of, having a little momentum swing for themselves right now, winning on the road at TCU. A quad 1 opportunity can totally shift your tournament expectations. All the bracketologists and all the national media will all of a sudden be like, you know what? BYU's on the first 4 out type thing. That's how big these quad 1 opportunities come. And this is a golden one right here on the road against your rival. And if you win this one, the confidence will be an all-time high, and the bragging rights and just being in the state of Utah and beating Utah and avenging last year's loss is so important for so many of these guys on this team.
Yeah, the more you talk about it, Karter, the more it just solidifies in my mind. This is like the best scenario as far as getting a quad 1 win.
Yes.
You get to play just 45 minutes up the road, a team that you can beat, who isn't, he's not like a Kansas quad 1 or an Iowa State quad 1, but still a quad 1. It's an away game that won't feel totally like an away game. I hope that the entire coaching staff, because we've talked about this, right? They're not going to be like, guys, this is a quad 1 game in the locker room. But there are guys on the staff who are saying, this is huge. This could do a lot for our resume, our confidence, our conference record, getting back to 500. A lot is riding on this game. And so I agree with you. This is the most golden opportunity BYU has. You do want to root on Utah pretty much the rest of the way because you want to see if that will stay a quad 1 win. Because if I'm not mistaken, your quad 1s can change throughout the season. Even if in the moment you win a quad 1 game, this could easily end up being a quad 2 depending on how Utah's season goes. So you're also rooting for them the rest of the way, right? But this is the perfect opportunity to kind of really, I don't want to say fix things, but just start to fill in some holes in this resume. And in this season we've seen, this accomplishes a lot. You get to say, hang your hat on a quad 1 win. You get to say you beat Utah. You get to have that confidence built into the rest of the season. And you got to go back to 300 in Big 12 play. You and I have said it 100 times in this podcast. It's all you need to do. So really, this is Saturday night's huge. And that I think the coaching staff realizes that. I think that they're going to be laser focused. I mean, they need to be. They need to be dialed in because this is a huge opportunity.
We'll talk more about this, but let's take a quick break. A few more things on this Utah game, Chase. You mentioned right there, right before we went to break, how important this game is, and the coaching staff understands that. I would say BYU, a big key coming into this game is we saw in the beginning of the Oklahoma State game, especially in that first half, BYU has to come out like the hungry dog and the more desperate team because I'll tell you what, Utah, I mean, that's going to be the tale of both of these teams is there's a ton of pressure on BYU right now, the coaching staff and all the players and everything, and the expectations are there. Utah doesn't necessarily have that expectations behind them, yet they're playing at home and with almost nothing to lose, because that's a dangerous game to play against your rival when the other team has nothing to lose.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. Like I was saying, there's so much riding on this for BYU, whereas Utah, you might, say they can make a run here. And look, don't get me wrong, they could, but you kind of are just like, let's just beat BYU. That's their whole mentality right now. I don't think they're thinking of resumes or records. They're just like, let's defend home court and send them out here packing with a loss. So BYU needs to be focused, man. They need to come out like the hungry dog, like you said. In fact, by Vegas's odds, they're not out yet, unless you did find some. BYU is going to be the underdog here. They will not be favored. I don't believe so. ESPN, their analytics say BYU it should not win, although it's a very close margin. I think KenPom is like 50-50, BYU or Utah at this point. It might have changed since last night after that Utah win. So BYU, you don't even have to come in feeling like you're the favorite, because they quite literally, by betting odds, will not be.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the analytics websites right now, and some are saying BYU by 1, some are saying Utah by 1. So it's basically going to be a pick 'em in this spot, 50-50 shot, coin toss game. And I'm excited, man. This is a season-defining game. We talked about it so much, and I really, once again, I just can't emphasize this enough, how important these games are for the psyche and the confidence going forward for this team. And winning a game on the road against your biggest rival is so big for your program and so big for the rest of the season. Just think, if Jaeger comes out there in a rivalry game, super hostile atmosphere, and goes out there, because the overrated chants are coming, and those BS chants, you can't do that chants from a weaker student section and whatnot. Those chants are going to come. Let's say he comes out there and silences the crowd and puts up a 15, 8, and 5 performance. Then the confidence going forward for that guy is going to be through the roof, and the media narrative, and it's all going to be compounding.
Yeah, it's a lot of things could just take a 180 Saturday night. Like everything could be BYU's back. This is a tournament team. Yeah, in both directions. Yeah, because we don't really want to talk about it, but a loss here, especially an embarrassing one, I think kills a lot of hope and a lot of any momentum you had. And
yeah,
we don't even need to discuss it, because that's going to be that bad.
Let's bring that up real quick. Let's say it's a double-digit loss on the road against Utah. Let's say Utah wins this game 85-71.
It's demoralized. That's tough, because now you're 2-4.
That's a nail in the coffin type stuff.
Yeah, that's. We'll see you in the NIT. That's what happens if that's. You're saying if even the NIT.
Double-digit loss like that would be tough to come back from after what we've seen so far.
It would. Yeah. This is why we're saying it's so big. Look, a loss doesn't necessarily kill the season. A win doesn't save it. But it just, for all the feels and all that intangible things that, that sports offers, that like, there's no analytics for this other than my gut saying this is huge. This could make or break the season.
It really could make or break the season, and I'm excited for it. It's TBD if we're going to be there, Chase. Apparently, who knows what's going on there.
Utah's trying to keep us out of the building. They're trying to keep us out.
Apparently, so we'll probably find out tomorrow what the deal is. If not, I think we got to go tickets and just go in.
I think we might. I think it's like $30 right now to get in the door. So
yeah, I'm looking right here. $20. We can get in the door. We get in there. Yeah, and we'll just sit with the fans. We'll sit with the fans.
Sit with the fans. Yeah.
But yeah, if we don't get the credentials, I'll be pretty pissed. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyhow, all right. Last couple things. We'll do some game predictions and then players to watch for, and then we'll get out of here. Chase, who's your player to watch for in this game against Utah?
Player to watch for in this game, it's got to be for me. There's a lot of guys. It's got to be Keba Keita in this game. I've really liked what I've seen from him in the past couple of weeks. It's obviously a big game for him. We've talked about it, and everyone knows he used to play for the Running Utes. But I really think he can be a force here. He's more physical. He's the most athletic guy on the court. And I've really enjoyed what I've seen from BYU when Jaeger, Dallin, and Keba are all playing together. I think the defense that he brings is the kind of the thing that hides all the bad stuff for BYU. And then the lob threat and the rebounding is massive. He needs to have a good game. He needs to impose his will, be physical. He doesn't have to score a lot of points. He just got to grab every rebound, play amazing defense, and send a message to Utah that he's there. So got to look out for Caba Saturday night.
I love that. I think Cabe is huge, and staying out of foul trouble is going to be very key in this one for him. So being that lob threat, that can kind of be the difference in this game, and this is a revenge game, you know. Kevin Young mentioned it in the press conference. He's like the ultimate traitor coming from Utah to BYU, and now he gets to play at the Huntsman Center next time. I'm looking at last year's box score, Chase, and this game was so long ago and everything, but remember, Richie had a really good game in that comeback. Him and Jackson were knocking down shots. The player I'm watching for is Dallin Hall. Dallin Hall didn't have a great showing last year on the road at the Huntsman Center. Dallin took that one hard last year. There's no question about it. And there is going to be that he's not going to forget what happened last year. He had a rough game last year. He's got to have a good game in this spot. And just be in the right mental space and just it's going to be such a hostile environment, and these guys just got to be calm. And I'm excited to be there for our first time seeing BYU in a road game, and especially their biggest road game of the season so far with how the environment's going to be and everything. Dallin's my player to watch for in this spot just because of what happened last year, and I want to see him improve. I want to see him have a good game.
Me too. And he's got got some momentum going right now, putting together a couple of good games. He really needs to command the floor.
Do you think he comes off the bench again?
I think he does. I think it's been working. I don't expect Kevin Young to rock with the starters for more than like 4 minutes. I think it's a pretty quick sub. I think this game, Carter, it's going to have, and it's to kind of slide into predictions here, I think it's going to be like up and down. Like when you have a big game like this and the jitters, you feel like you're shooting everything. You're running up and down the court. And I think it's a little fast paced at first, and then it really starts to settle down in the second half. And so Dallin's going to be a big part of that, right? Getting subbed in, controlling the ball as the point guard, being able to push it when you need to, but also settle it down when you need to. It's going to be one of those games where you're just like the first 5 shots are either going to all be makes or all be misses. It's one of those things.
We will get a great. I wish like the media seats and everything were closer to the floor, because I would love to see just the feel and the emotion and the body language up close in until that under 16 media timeout, and see how things are going. And maybe before the game, walk down closer to the court just to get a feel for things and whatnot. See how loose guys are, how tight, because these games get weird, man. Like, I feel like playing in these big games, a lot of these guys, it's almost like a giant, these games just get so funky, these rivalry games. Last year, I think BYU was, a 6-point favorite on the road last year, and Utah was up 15 in that game.
Yeah, it's always weird, man. I mean, it's just the BYU-Utah thing. Look at football. Not to pull that in, although that was an awesome game. It's just weird things. And this is the first time in a really long while I feel like, Utah and BYU are kind of on even footing. It feels like BYU's had the upper edge most years, at least, pregame. And they've kind of been the expected to win, and they've taken care of business for the most part the last, I don't even know, 10 years. But here, being in the same conference and the amount of pressure is on it. And look, it's pretty much a pick 'em game by the betting odds. It's really anyone's moment. Could get real funky.
Yeah. Any Caleb Lohner love before we finish off our predictions?
Caleb Lohner love from me. What's there to love? What did Jonathan Tavernari said? He said, what's a tight end doing playing basketball?
Yeah, JT went way off. Yeah, he went off.
No, I'm just kidding. Of course, a lot of love for Caleb Lohner. I was going to say, who knows what happens if he sticks around at BYU, because I think he was talented. He did that thing at Baylor, and I think his basketball career certainly hasn't gone the way he's wanted it, and he's kind of turned into the player that I don't think he's playing the style of basketball he wants to play, but that he's just kind of been molded into by what the situations and opportunities have put in front of him. But he's a Coug, man. I'll always remember him.
That the talent was always there. Yeah, we're going to get a moment on Saturday where we're going to see Kaba versus Caleb Lohner in one spot, and someone's going to get that picture and post it on Twitter and everything. So hopefully, maybe we'll see like a Kaba, poster.
Just a yam. Puts his nuts in his face.
Let's do score predictions. We'll get out of here. What's the score on Saturday?
I think it's kind of a grinded out kind of battle. I think scores in the 60s. I think it's definitely close. I think it's definitely a close game. So I'm going to go BYU wins 67-66. It's that close.
Ooh. I'm going to go in the 70s. I think it's a little higher scoring because I think, let's just say the fellows in the striped shirts like to be heard in the Huntsman Center. And I think we see a lot of free throws on both sides. I want that clear. I think we get a lot of free throws on both sides of the ball. 74-75 BYU.
Yeah. I thought you were going to do it, Carter.
I thought you were going to do Utah. I thought you were going to say Utah. But
can't say Utah. Anyhow. I can't say Utah. This is a BYU podcast. It's called Church Ball. Come
on. Anything else?
Nope. Other than we're just excited. If you're there at the Huntsman Center, you might see us. We might sit next to you. I mean, depending on how we get into this game.
Yeah, we might sit next to you if we don't get we don't get proper clearance.
Yeah, we'll probably be in neutral colors, but come say what's up to us if you see us, and make sure to always interact, comment on our Twitter and stuff. We'll be talking during the game and share your thoughts, comments, questions, all that stuff. We will do our best to go live right after, if not immediately after the game, definitely that night.
We'll see how the game's going. We'll put out a poll, and everybody can just vote. Should we do a spaces? Should we do just a live recap, or just the normal record the pod, post it? We can do one. We can figure out one of the three. If we do get our credentials for that game, I think the move is to go live right after the press conference and just do it on the court there.
Yeah.
If we can make it happen. So
stay tuned.
Stay up to date at Church Ball Pod on everything, at Chase_Rogers0, at Karter B8. Stay tuned. Follow the socials to figure out what's going to happen on Saturday night's show. We might go live. We might do a little Twitter Spaces. Have some of the fans come on. Maybe we get some nice reactions from the fans, depending on the results. So we'll figure that out. Make sure to follow at Church Ball Pod, and we'll see y'all then. Go Cougs! Beat Utah, man.
Beat Utah. Come on.